Hello? The reason it is that I made a stupid face is because you want to catch people's attention immediately. And the best way to catch people's attention, you know what it is? Act like a retard right at the beginning, and people will watch you. And I'm pretty sure that it worked. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to wait for me to set this up. You know why? Because our upcoming guest, the venerable Matt Hessler, is a complete fucknut. That's why. And he doesn't know how to work Skype. And you know what else? There's a second part to this. It's a slightly less important, but it is less important. Me? I'm a fucknut too. And I didn't know how to use Skype, so I can't blame just him. But if you want to do something smart, the best thing you can do is always blame someone else for your mistakes. And we are close. We are so close to doing this, Matt. Do you feel it? Awesome. It's coming. It's coming. Motherfuck, I think I did this. Okay, so we have it. All right, bro. So welcome to What's in Your Cart. The entire idea of this is going to be that we're gonna, you know, Amoeba, right? I'm getting my notes. You know, Amoeba. What's in my cart, right? So they talk to a whole bunch of superstars. What it is that we're going to do is we're going to talk to the first superstar of the music industry that I've been able to come up with. We were going to start with Grails, but call me Grails. But here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing dude and all around. Ladies, are there any ladies? You got to see what this guy looks like, I swear. I hope you're wearing a sturdy bra. Call me Grails. But here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing dude,
it's
and
true.
all
It's
around.
true. You're a fucking model.
Ladies, are there any ladies? You got to see what this guy looks like, I swear.
You know,
I hope you're wearing a sturdy bra. Call me Grails. I am. Here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing dude,
it's
and
true.
all
It's
around.
true. You're a fucking
Ladies,
model.
are there any ladies? You got to see what this guy looks like, I swear.
Yeah, man. And
I hope you're wearing a sturdy bra.
I don't know, man. It's fun to be able to do it again.
Here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing dude,
trying to make
and
true.
all around.
True. You're a fucking
Ladies,
model.
are there any ladies?
I'm sure
You got to see what this guy looks like. I
Yeah, man.
swear.
And
I hope you're wearing a sturdy
I don't know,
bra.
man. It's fun to be able to do it again.
Here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing
Yeah, well,
dude,
that's what it is. I want to do. You're a
and
fucking
ladies,
model.
you're ladies, please stores. You got to see what this guy looks like.
Get it started. And
I
don't know, man. It's fun to be able to do it again.
Here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing
Yeah, well,
dude,
that's what it is. I want to do. You're a fucking model.
ladies, please stores. You got to see what this guy looks like.
Get it started. And I don't know, man. It's fun to be able to do it again.
Here we have Mr. Matt Hessler, marketing dude,
right? Because there's probably a dozen records I'd take out of this store. So
that's the
what
idea.
could we do that was $100 or less? I got squeezed out. One of the records I totally wanted to pick, I had to bump to my just missed list because it was $1 too expensive. But you gotta play by the rules.
Yeah.
But with that, if that's the deal, that's the contest. I don't know. I'm stoked to hear your pick.
Okay, so let's see what order I'm gonna go in. My original picks were just under the $100 limit, but I wanted that. What's that LA garage rock band we were talking about? But that sold
LA
out.
Witch.
Yeah, LA Witch. I wanted that so badly, and didn't wind up getting it. But had to make a few switches. My first pick will be. Yeah, let's go with. Serge Gainsbourg with Les Chemins de Kathmandu. There's a few reasons why I picked this one. It's a great lost psych rock masterpiece. So if you look at what's his name? Gainsbourg. I'm talking about Gainsbourg and I forgot Gainsbourg. But if you look at Gainsbourg's period, his biggest period was with Jean-Claude Vanier. Okay, so he released the obviously huge record Histoire de Melody Nelson, and a whole bunch of other records. I'm not remembering all of them, but there's one thing that's long been on my list, and that's the soundtrack to a movie called Cannabis. And I've never had it in any format, so it's kind of like that's very, very sought after, especially by diggers, because it's rather layered and psychish type of thing. Well, this one here, Le Chemin de Kathmandu, is a record that was never released before. It's actually a first-time record, number one. Number two, it's like really like the long-lost grail type of thing. Number two, it's Now Again, right? So whenever it is that I look at Now Again, they don't do wrong, man. I've gotten so many records from that label, including Zelda, for example, or, a couple of compilations. But decided to go with that one, and looking forward to getting it. Now, I'm curious to see, Matt.
Dude, you're such a nerd. I love it. Like, this is a Vinyl Me Please store. I get to, dig through this. I know what's going to be in here months in advance, and I have no idea about this record. So I've already in 5 minutes just learned more about this than I knew. And I don't know. I'm a music weirdo. I grew up a hardcore kid, and my stuff kind of bends like hardcore metal and indie rock, and my psych knowledge is pretty low, and certainly my international psych knowledge is probably like completely non-existent. So all of a sudden you got me thinking maybe I need this record too.
Do you have Gainsbourg Ballad de Melody Nelson? Why is the names are not coming to me? But yeah, the Ballad of Melody Nelson.
No, I have no games.
Not ballad. It's L'Histoire de Melody Nelson, and this is a record I've owned for years. It's just my head's not with me. Light in the Attic, dude. Just blue cover with this beautiful woman who's kind of like topless, but in a pair of jeans, and she's covering her breasts kind of like with her arms. It's a fucking masterpiece. There's no other way to call it. And like Beck, I mean, they used it in the liner notes, but Beck, mentioned what a masterpiece it was. Being here in Quebec, there's a big French culture, so Gainsbourg's a big deal. The records you can find, but one thing that you don't find is this Chemin de Kathmandu. It's never around, and I mean, good luck if you find a copy of the soundtrack to Cannabis. I haven't found it. I'm dying for it. So if VMP wants to get behind the little, reissue campaign, would be a good idea.
I wouldn't hate that. I'd reach out to old Egon and Now Again. I mean, that guy finds one jewel after another, and he is definitely one of my most trusted sources for discovery. So I love the stuff that comes out of Now Again.
He's a master. There's really no other way to put it. He's a master, and I have a very deep respect for the way that he digs. Like for me, Now Again is a blind purchase type of label. So now, right?
Totally.
You got other picks here. Let's see how you're gonna bounce off my Chemin de Kathmandu. What's next, Hessler?
We're going one for one?
Yeah, man, let's go back and forth and see how this works. I mean, we're trying it out, right? So
yeah, I dig that. I went my first record. I started cheap. I tried to get in on something that was maybe a little bit of a value because I knew I had some heavy hitters in my cart. But we've got a Marissa Nadler record that's in the store right now. It's on purple vinyl. What is that record called? I forgot the record title. But it's very cool. We worked with Sacred Bones. She wanted to put this out as kind of anniversary of the Sacred Bones label. And so they were turning 10 this year. They wanted something special with Marissa. And she had all of these kind of home recordings. And so we were able to help facilitate getting all these home recordings mastered for vinyl, putting it on vinyl in the store. I think it actually might have dropped last month, but I didn't pick it up last month. And I've been listening to, there's one track released on digital streaming, Spotify, wherever. But I just think it's rad that vinyl as a format has come back enough that artists are willing to consider doing a vinyl only release. So it's not just that this is VMP exclusive, but like she's never going to stream all this. This is her most intimate stuff, her kind of bedroom recordings, and she only wanted it on vinyl. She felt like that was the right medium for the type of thing. And it's lovely. Like, we got to interview her, and she made some really strong like singer-songwriter points about like that, like, you know, a great song when it still sounds great in most simple form. And that to me, like, is she the best singer-songwriter that's ever been? Definitely no. Like, are you gonna cherish this record? But I think it's lovely. You can put it on anytime. It's got some things that really speak. It's very like human, and I love that it is unique as a vinyl only pressing. So for like kind of a collector thing, I think it's very cool.
Actually, this brings me into something that you and I are doing that's pretty cool, right? And we kind of like in working together, it happened by mistake. I don't know if you caught this, Hessler, but we did something this week in choosing the records that we were going to talk about a little different, right? Because I sent you a list of stuff I could work with, right? But this time you did something different. Mm-hmm. What you did is you told me that you sent me stuff that I didn't put on my list at all, right? And I found that interesting because now it kind of creates a little bit of a anticipation, and it creates almost like a little bit of a challenge. And what you've done, and I didn't know it was going to happen that way, but I took it that way, is there's a online kind of interaction of you introducing me to something that I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's kind of...
yeah.
I forgot what record you were going to mention, but you had mentioned one record you were sending that I would have not picked up at all, and it may have been Marissa Nadler. I don't know. Is this the type of thing that like would be up my alley?
I think so. I mean, there's certainly no reason to be against this record. Ride for it, like where it's a record that you're pulling out all the time. I don't know. I mean, that's going to be on you, personal preference wise, but I think this record is like, I don't know. I'm also very weird about like time of year. Music to me is so much about mood. We're getting our first snow here in Denver. The weather's turning cold. I'm listening to records all the time. Like in the summer, it just slows down for me. And this is a cold morning record. Like it honestly is like the musical version of a hot cup of coffee on a cold morning.
You see, I like that. Now, all of a sudden, you know, it's funny because the minute you said that, when you started talking, when you were talking about, you know, best singer-songwriters, for example, and you were saying, will she be the best singer-songwriter? And you said no. The first artist I thought about was Carole King, immediately. Like Tapestry.
Yeah, nice.
Tapestry is, you know, right there for me. And now, as you mentioned, a cup of coffee, and, you know, you described that scene. You personified almost that scene. You suddenly made me interested in finding out, because for a second time, Carole King came up in my mind. And, you know, the musical instincts say that if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, and Carole King comes to mind twice, it's probably a decent path to go along. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. That's a solid starting point, my man.
Awesome. Okay, so now I got to bounce off you, right?
Yeah.
You picked Marissa Nadler. Holy fuck. Do I, like, just totally turn this on its head, or do I keep going with that mood? You know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the Milt Jackson record. Okay, this is a actual org release, and actually the reason it is that I'm picking this one is specifically because, why is this motherfucker not working though? Sorry, I'm trying to I'm trying to get this fucking thing working over here, you cocksucker. There we go. Now we see Milt Jackson, because I'm a dumbass, dude. So look, Milt Jackson, right? How many times have I told you? Pressing matters. Some people press garbage, some people don't. So for me, a lot of what informs my decision when it comes to buying records is the pressing, right? Now, this was a yes or no record, depending on that, because it was pressed by two. It was pressed by Rhino and it was pressed by Org Music.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, you know, rock and roll, if you're going to buy a Pantera record, okay, I understand Rhino, but if you're going to buy a jazz record, or if you're going to buy anything with soft passages, you're going to get a noisy piece of vinyl, or at least the odds are there.
Yeah.
You don't have any issues at all, at all, like that when you're dealing with Org. So, for me, just knowing that label is the difference between a purchase or not a purchase. If it was Rhino, I'd leave it there. If it was Org, I'd pick it up. This is Org.
I back that. I mean, I love the Org pressings. What you're saying is totally spot on. I gave this record like a few pretty deep listens because the starting point for me is like that old Soul Brothers record where it's Milt Jackson and Ray Charles.
Oh yeah.
That record is, I mean, people always ask like dumb questions in interviews about like what's your favorite record, and I think that question is just utter bullshit. But like, if I had to pick a record that I listen to most often, it's probably that Soul Brothers record. So I went into this being like, I definitely want this Milt Jackson, right? Like, he's half of this Soul Brothers record, which I love. And I don't know, man, this record is just the only word I can think of is like swanky.
That's exactly what it is, man.
Plenty. And swanky is just not my vibe. I like it, but am I going to like ride for this record and say I love it? Like, I don't know. I can see where, you know, musicians really appreciate it and it's got its own vibe, but it's not a vibe that like totally kills for me.
Yeah, but he's a vibes player, man. That's what it's about. You know, you pick up a Lionel Hampton record, it's the same type of thing, you know. But yeah, I guess I can understand that. It's definitely not like Ray Charles. I mean, Ray Charles, right? You're talking about the Atlantic label here. So Ray Charles's largest, his biggest, most important records were mostly released on the Atlantic label. So by putting Milt Jackson onto the whole thing, Milt is kind of fitting. He is and isn't, but, you know, Milt is fitting the Ray Charles mold rather than vice versa, because Ray Charles is the one that's selling the millions of records. Okay.
Sure.
Here, you got Milt Jackson doing his thing, and, you know, you got a little bit more of a bebop thing, and you got, more traditional, you know, just 50s vibraphone stuff. So
totally.
Yeah, but this shit gets me. So more vibraphone is always good. Now, where are you gonna bounce off, Hessler? Your turn.
Oh, I'm going far north. I'm getting as far away from Milt as you can possibly get. My next pick is that High on Fire, Blessed Black Wings.
Oh!
Couldn't be further from Milt Jackson. And I've been a big High on Fire fan, having seen them live. Like, their live show is a total face melter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they bring it. And I don't know, in a lot of ways, like, a lot of people I know that were even, like, maybe, like, pretty superficial level metal kids, they get into High on Fire. Really, it's like High on Fire is almost like a super group, because you've got Matt Pike from Sleep, like an all-time great doom stoner band, and then throughout like the history of High on Fire, you've had what's his name, Joe Preston from the Melvins.
Oh yes,
played on a bunch of High on Fire records.
And Earth.
And then you've got Jeff Matz, who was in Zeke. Which I think is like a totally, I consider Zeke more like just a riffing like rock and roll band.
It's
but like,
Motorhead on steroids.
Yeah, those guys, like, they all have great chops, and you know, I don't know if it reinvents anything in the category of metal, but everything that comes out High on Fire is like something I want to own. And I love this vinyl treatment on this kind of swamp green 2LP. And I'm always dying to put more metal in my collection. So High on Fire was my second choice.
Well, actually, in which case, we're joining, because this was a pick for me as well. Remember when I told you that the LA Witch was sold out in your store? What I did was I know you're sending me LA Witch, and I'm real excited about it, but I just took it off for the sake of it, because it's like, it's not in the store. What's the point of talking about it? So I did a little bit of a switch. And no, actually, no, wait a second. High on Fire didn't make my list. I'll tell you why it didn't make my list, dude. The first 3 High on Fire records kind of look the same. They're all kind of dark. And I mixed it up for another High on Fire record. And I'm really happy that you're sending me this because I agree with, you know, the idea of Pike being a guitar god. And I don't know, man. That's kind of like in metal. It's really nice to have that. You know, Mastodon was that for me for a good while too, and then it kind of got a little, I don't know. The whole thing got big or whatever, but
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I can't hate on the music because I can't say I know it, but you know, early Mastodon really rocked my world, and Pike, no matter how big he gets, and his legend gets bigger all the time, he doesn't give a fuck. He plays and he plays and he plays, and nobody does it like him. He's unique, man, and I mean,
I agree. He's a guy who's like more dedicated to the music than some of the studio stuff. Like the Mastodon reference is an interesting one because I think they got into bigger and bigger production, and they were getting bankrolled by labels and in big studios. And like this is, I think it's the second High on Fire record, Blessed Back Wings.
It's the third.
It's their third?
It's their third, but yeah.
For me, it's like still pretty gritty. Like it doesn't seem glossy at all. And partly that's like a Matt Pike style, but I think it's also like a, I don't know, production value thing that it's still got some grit.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, if anything, that's really one of the grittiest records. And for me, that's the first, to me, that yielded, if you want to call it that, the first quote-unquote hit from High on Fire. Like, it's the first...
Oh, for sure.
Devolution came out, and it stayed in my head immediately, and even if I haven't heard the song in years, I know, Devolution! And he's fucking screaming, and like, the guitar's fucking churning like crazy. And realizing that I didn't have the record, I had another Brown record, and you're sending me this Brown record makes me really fucking happy. So, good. Awesome choice.
Nice.
Beauty. So,
and also, you're of course going to like a band called High on Fire.
I am. And, you know, in the future, I'll have other Matt Pike stories because I've interviewed Matt Pike twice. And once was a mitigated disaster, and I'm completely willing to laugh at my own shame. And I have a couple of those. I'm not an interviewer, man. I like talking like this. You know what I'm saying? Different thing, man. We bounce off each other. You're interviewing somebody. I don't know. So, who picks next, dude? Me? You?
You do. I picked High on Fire, man.
So did I. Okay, so look, let's do... I'm going to go to Madlib, man. That's my next one. This Brazil compilation. One thing that I like about the VMP shop is the curation aspect of it. Okay, the fact that something comes out once a month makes it so that it's almost like I'm walking into a bin. All right, and when the bin yields something like Madlib, it's something that I want pretty immediately. So I took that and, you know, whatever it is, as much as it blew of my $100 limit, I knew that it's something that I wanted because Madlib has fucked with every type of music and done it to perfection. And you know that he's going to do well by Brazil, man. You know he's going to do it. So I already know that I'm probably listening to something that I'm going to be spinning into, you know, summer 2018. So yeah, bring it, man.
I mean, I feel bad because you're going to get this record and you're not going to listen to anything else for like 2 weeks. And I know you're a guy who likes to listen to a lot of shit. So I'm apologizing in advance because this thing's going to own your turntable for like solid 2 weeks. It's so good.
I look forward to those types of things, and when that type of thing happens, I welcome it so much, man. So, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, I keep, like, I get it. I've played it a few times, I put it away, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take this back out tomorrow. Just leave it out. Like, what? Keep sleeving this thing. Like, I'm gonna play something else. But this record was actually also on my list, and I mean, I don't know. It's always funny to like have people peek behind the curtain at Vinyl Me Please, but you know, we're a group of music fans. None of us came from the music industry, but when we see a project like this, like so, this record, Flights to Brazil, has never been on vinyl. So we know Egon it now. Again, we know Madlib pretty well. Like we've got some kind of friends and family connections there, and I mean, we had to literally beg. But for us, it's like there's no greater pleasure than taking something that like we love the music and being able to facilitate that like very first time that you can hold it and have a copy of it in your hands. So I know internally, like there's been way more hours put into this project than it should ever warrant. There wasn't a cover design for vinyl. I mean, if you look, you can find this record on Spotify and all the streaming stuff, but the cover's totally different. And so we had an opportunity to design packaging for it, work with Madlib on it, and this has taken months and months and months. I think a lot of times people don't realize when we drop this, like, oh yeah, it's a great record, everybody should want Madlib, but like for us, this was blood, sweat, and tears to get this done, just from a bunch of nerds that love Madlib and thought this thing needed to be on wax.
You were just showing off a little bit there. Listen to you, Mr. fucking mover and shaker, fucking producer. Hey, go get the design team. Let's go design a cover. You fucking show off. He's handsome and he shows off too.
I mean, none of this. My hands aren't on any of this shit. I'm just like, I'm the luckiest dude in the world because I get to come to work, and part of my job is to like make great music, like come to the format that we all love, and that makes me like a seriously lucky dude. It's
the best, man. It's the best, and every sacrifice is worth it. So yeah, man, the fact, you see, I didn't know that you guys were behind the project that much, because in putting together like this segment, I looked for information, like I Googled, right? And
sure.
there was nothing. There was only this picture, period. And I didn't know that you guys had your hand in it. So very, very, very cool. Is this a limited thing?
Yeah, it's. I think we pressed. I want to say 1,500. I think we kept 1,000 for our store, and I think Madlib got 500 of them.
Gotcha. Okay, and that stuff he's going to sell in his store or on tour?
I think so. He's going to tour with it. I mean, these days he's like a vinyl fairy. He just like loves giving this stuff away. I mean, I think it's less about like making money for him. I mean, for him, it's about legacy. He just like, this is now this thing he was really proud of that he now has a vinyl version of.
Turn off your alarm, fuckface.
I know. God damn it. Figure it out, people.
Fuckface. You're ruining the show. You're ruining my life.
I think they heard you.
Well, dude, listen. You know, sometimes, Matt, you got to put your foot down in life. All right, so your pick. Your turn, Hessler.
All right, well, I mean, I'll give one more and I get to skip one because Flights to Brazil was also on my list.
Gotcha.
So I'm Marissa Nadler, High on Fire, Flights to Brazil, and then I'm rounding it out with this Daniel Lupi project called Milano. And it's a weird record, not weird musically, it's just kind of a weird story of how it came to be. This guy, Daniel Lupi, I didn't know anything about him. He's an Italian composer. He's written movie scores. He's worked with tons of different artists. But he's a guy that he really likes writing music. He's not like a super I want to get up and perform guy.
Composer.
And yeah, I mean, so he wrote this record. It's funny because like I always think of composers like being a little more classic term.
Okay.
But he's like an indie rock composer. Like, is there such a thing? Apparently.
Certainly.
And so he wrote this record. It's all about growing up in Milan in the 90s and Milan becoming like the center for world fashion and like looking at everything as like beauty by design, which I would have never guessed that could have translated to like an audio like composition. But he writes this record and is trying to figure out how to bring it to life. Do you hire studio musicians? Like, what do you do with this? And he basically takes the record and he got first the guys from Parquet Courts, so indie rock band, I think Brooklyn based. They could be LA. I don't know them all that well. And they agree to perform the music and do all the tracking for all the music. And the singer for Parquet Courts was going to do some of the vocals, and Daniel just had this vision that like that wasn't quite right, but he didn't know who else to use. And so Daniel, by whatever reason, is somehow friends with Danger Mouse, the producer. And Danger Mouse runs a record label called Century. He's talking to Danger Mouse about like this, asking Danger Mouse's help on production. And Danger Mouse is able to help reel in Karen O from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs to bring a female presence to the vocals. So now you've got a record written by an Italian, produced by an American hip hop legend, with an indie rock band and Karen O of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs singing. And it's never going to happen again. This is the one shot they've got for it. It's, I think, really compelling. I mean, it's a record I will listen to. It's not going to occupy my turntable like Flight to Brazil, but like, this is a record that is going to be on high rotation for me through the end of the year.
What label will it be pressed on? Who's putting it out?
30th Century Records, which is Danger Mouse's label.
Danger Mouse's label. Okay, very good. Got it.
And then so it'll hit stores on a black variant. The only color version of this record is the one that we got at Vinyl Me Please. So, and 30th Century, I think, is under Columbia. It's like an imprint under Columbia.
Okay.
So, they had big production, big budgets, and they went for it with this record.
Okay. So, we're gonna try. We got our $100 there. I don't know how yours turned out, but mine was $100 right on the nose.
I think mine's 97.
Yeah, 97 is where I was before. Got me 4 records, which is really good, and you guys just ship it off, and you don't charge for shipping for those extra records.
That's right.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a member, we don't charge for shipping. If you're a non-member, you can still buy all these titles, but there is a flat fee shipping for, it's whatever, $6 or $7 for as many as you order. There's a little more variation to shipping if you're international based on where you are and how many records are going in the box and all that. But yeah, members always ship free, and I think non-members it's like $6, and that could be 6, 7, 8 records. So we try to make the shipping pretty damn reasonable, but
okay,
there is some cost there. Yeah.
So now, you've shopped from your own store, obviously. I mean, we're record people, so we always wind up grabbing a couple for ourselves. A record from your collection that's sitting in the store. Let's say you fulfilled yours, but now you got a 5th pick. But this one's not for you. You know that kind of thing where it's like you always want to introduce a record to somebody and it's like, dude, I don't understand how this record is in the fucking store. It's just you need to get this. If you had to pick one record that you already have to give to someone else, which one would it be? Okay.
Ooh, so it doesn't need to be on the list that we just went over. So
no, anything, man, anything. It's like you have it, and it's like, no, dude, you need this in your collection.
Man,
I'll let you think. No, listen, I'll let you think on it because I got one.
Okay, yeah, you start because I could go like 3 different ways.
Yeah, well, think about it.
Okay.
I'm very easy to tune out there, Matt. Not that interesting, so don't worry about it. I have no clue how you guys still have that Ghetto Brothers record in the shop. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Number one, it's cheap. Secondly, that is a legit record from a 70s street gang. You know the movie The Warriors?
Yeah.
The movie The Warriors was based on real-life events happening in New York City at that time, and these guys, the Ghetto Brothers... That's my dog's chain. Hey, you buddy. You got fleas.
Hungry?
Nah, man. She's scratching herself. So yeah, these guys are like legit, you know. They're a Puerto Rican gang that were brought up in this fucking shithole that New York used to be. Have you seen the movie Rubble Kings?
Yeah.
Right, on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Latin gang, and they were talking about the leader, they got killed, and the gang said, fuck this, we're not doing it anymore. That's the Ghetto Brothers. Okay? So what they did was, you know, they started doing a lot of community stuff, very much like the Black Power movement or the Black Panther movement was centered around the black community. You know, they were very, very centered around Puerto Rican and Latin communities and uplifting them while, you know, slumlords are basically burning buildings to the ground around them because, you know, the insurance payout is worth more than the building itself. So, part of this was, you know, they would serve meals and soups and that type of thing, and they just started practicing, and it got good. And eventually this gang, all gang members, started playing out in front of a corner store, and the guy at the corner store was cool with it because what's going on with this dog? He could sell stuff, right? So what he would do is he would allow them to plug in their amps, and he would serve them free sandwiches and drinks while these gang members are fucking playing their instrument. Eventually they get together with a shady record guy who fucks them on this record, and, you know, it's the typical deal gone bad. But what I'm trying to say is here in like 1970 or whatever, really, really early 70s, you have a record sung by gang members way before gangster rap ever happened. And it's the history of it. It's got, the liner notes are really small, but the history of the record is amazing. And you can't get it originally. You know why? There were only something like 300 or 400 of them pressed, and they weren't sold. There were things that they would give away to people, or they were things that they were supposed to sell, but the deal went bad, and they wound up giving away a lot of stuff. So if you're going to find one, chances are you're going to find one in New York, and it's going to cost you a bloody fortune. This pressing here is already got aftermarket happening on Discogs. And it's fucking sitting there in the store, and people are like, if you put this in a record store, okay, in the new arrivals bin, and it would last 5 minutes. It's been fucking making me crazy that it's sitting in your store, you bunch of dumbasses. It's a good record. Pick the fucking thing up.
So you did an amazing job with the story. How would you describe the music? Like, people have asked me, because I don't know why. I've got, like, it's a record I've had out, like, kind of on display on my shelves or whatever, and people always ask me about it. I don't know if it's the name or the look of the cover, but people are like, what is that? And, like, I find it's, like, kind of hard to describe the sound. Like, how would you describe the sound on that?
New Yorican, fucking funk, you know, New Yorican funk, really, you know, meets Santana, and the lead singer and the leader of the band was an enormous Beatles fan. That's where it started for him. So you'll notice that a lot of the songs don't sound like the type of thing, you know, there's nothing hardcore about them. As a matter of fact, they're love songs, okay? That comes straight from the guy's love of music, starting with the Beatles. As a matter of fact, I think it's the singer. I'm almost sure it's the singer. The singer's first foray into entertainment was as a Puerto Rican Beatles cover band. A Puerto Rican kids covers Beatles band called Los Beatles.
Ha!
I swear to
Los Beatles.
I don't know if it's Los Pequeños Beatles or something, but I'm pretty sure it's Los Beatles. But it's all there in the liner notes, and it's like, so, you know, like I said, you need a mic, you need a fucking magnifying glass, but are you kidding me? This thing gives you, like, the complete package. To me, that's the vinyl experience right there, right? Gives you something to read, gives you something to do, and, you know, is it such a great package? No, not really. It's got a printed inner sleeve. It's a single thing.
It's all right.
But you're never going to see that record again, ever. And I mean, if you're looking at really the roots of this type of a music, right? And if you're like, I mean, a lot of times when people look at community-based music, for example, in the United States, it'll always be the blaxploitation movement and a lot of the civil rights stuff, right? And, you know, this is something that was happening also, you know, from the Latin side. And, you know, you'd see a lot of New Yorican salsa coming out during that time also from, you know, labels like Fania. So it's there, you know, and you have to realize also that from the debris of all those crushed buildings and that poverty, dude, man, hip-hop rose from there as well. It's all from the same fucking pot. So something like the Ghetto Brothers is just that fucking little piece of meat right at the beginning. And they're making it up as they go along. They're good, but, you know, they're amateurs. They recorded that thing in the basement of the guy of a record store from the guy who fucked them over.
It's lo-fi as hell, for sure. I mean, like, that record is way lo-fi.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, it's not Betty Davis. It's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. No, that's a great pick. I've got a random one. You're throwing me on the spot. There's about 5 I would like to pick, but you know, with my whole like seasonality thing, I'm kind of losing the season on it. But a record I found myself like kind of like couldn't stop tapping my toe to, kind of dancey, threw it on at a few parties this summer, there's a record in the Vinyl and Police store, a woman, like kind of Israeli pop woman named Noga Erez. And
ooh,
yeah, it's weird. It's like a MIA or Santa Gold type vibe, like very world music with like powerful kind of pop female driven vocals. It's like if you ever have to DJ a dance party and you want to throw like a banger on that no one is gonna know, Noga Erez.
Ooh, that sounds fun. It's funny because you said Israeli, right? And
yeah.
Are you familiar with Ofra Haza?
I'm not.
Ofra Haza was an Egyptian singer. Actually is. I think she's still alive, isn't she? But very big during the 80s and 90s. And it's exactly that. You know, she took Egyptian culture and infused it into modern dance music. So, I mean, if you take a look, go to YouTube, you know, check out the Yalla Yalla song. So maybe you've even heard of it. Yalla, 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 Yalla. And she just goes on, and it's like there's this beat in the background. So it's really fucking awesome.
I'm sure she makes it sound better than you do.
Dude, I'm the falsetto king. Come on now. So, yeah, it made me think immediately of that. What label is this record? Noga Erez, right?
Noga Erez. I actually don't know the label.
It's because I put you on the spot.
You sure as hell did.
So in other words, like it would be right there in your notes. And
yes,
you would have known everything.
I'm a preparation guy, man.
I can see that. Dude, the first thing that came across when it comes to all of this is that this was a fucking blast, man.
I agree, man. I mean, shit. I've been talking to you for 3-4 months now.
Longer.
And half the fun for me is just getting educated. I love being part of a machine that gets to make and sell records, but I am nowhere near the kind of music head that you are. And I always get information from kind of jamming. And if we want to do it in front of a camera, it's fun by me.
Well, look, I mean, you know, I eventually reached the conclusion that, actually, I was at a dinner party, okay? I was at a dinner party with my friends a couple of weeks ago. And I realized during our conversation that I had expressed the sentiment that I'm not sure that I've ever spent more than 15 minutes in a room with somebody and not mentioned music. In my life. In my fucking life. It's like, what are you going to do, man? It's just, that's what it is, right? So, yeah, man, do it on camera. Why? Because, fuck, man. Listen, I can tell you pre-internet for me, I remember growing up and wanting to talk about this. And, you know, we have an opportunity here to share this exact same passion. And for me, the fact that we're working together and that you guys are, you know, a big part, really just a big part of setting the stage, a big part, I think, of, man, you're doing vinyl so right. I've told you this offline. It's just, I'm excited to see where it goes, and I don't say that. I'm not saying that to suck your dick, man. That's not how I mean it. The way it is that I mean it is, as a consumer, fuck you. As a consumer, the big smile on his face, this fucking guy. You should see his girlfriend. Holy Christ, is she hot. This guy must have miles and miles of vagina around him. Him and Storfer, sexy, sexy, sexy time there.
I'm a gentleman, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, what was I saying, dude? I just went off on a tangent. Yeah, 15 minutes? No, what was I saying?
I don't know.
We're done, dude. Whatever, man. We're done. This was fun.
Did you... yeah, and I don't want to make it into like a crazy, let's commoditize this whole thing, but did you told people, or it's in the copy before this, like one of the reasons why we picked $100 is we want other people to like go to Vinyl Me Please, leave comments on like what would you spend your $100 on, and we're gonna give away some records. Like if we can help share some of that love, and I'm totally fascinated to see what some vinyl junkies put as like their picks, but hopefully that's not me shilling too hard, but we'd love to give away some records.
Well, look, I do have a bunch of promo ideas, and I didn't want to put them out now because it's just I want to make sure we do it right. But yeah, what it is that I really like about this format is that it creates legit conversation within a community about which records would you pick, you know? And it's like, well, fuck, that's the entire fascination of the music anyway. If you're going to go there and you're going to talk about how much your collection is wrong, dude, you're doing it wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So yeah, dude, I know you got big, busy things to do.
Busy.
This was awesome, and we're going to do it again. Look, maybe we'll time it like right before your next shop opens, and we'll do better. And next time, guys, no technical difficulties, all right? It was Hessler's fault. He's completely fucked. All right, guys. Your rule. Later, Hessler.
All right.
You.
Thanks, y'all.
You.